Hi, I'm Maggie,
Hi, I'm Grace, and this is
a very bookish podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to episode 12. Today we are going to be talking about a very special read that we had for the month of January/February for our book club, a very bookish group. We are going to be talking about These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. We really enjoyed this book, especially our book club. She's a very up and rising author. She is still in university, which is crazy to think about, which
it's insane. Because she'll be on Twitter and she'll talk about being in class or the professor calling class early or something like that. And I'm just like, sheesh, I gotta remember she's still in school.
Well, I think it is her last year, but it's still very inspiring to have I'm still in school, so it means I can get mine done.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
still in school, and it's just very inspiring that she's 2 years older than me, I think, because she's graduating this year. But it's I have 2 years.
We'll get
And
it.
I'll get it done. We'll get it done. But today we are going to be talking a little bit about our reviews of These Violent Delights. I'm going to share my Goodreads review and what I said, and we're going to talk a little bit about quotes, characters, the general plot line. So this is a fair warning for spoilers for the entire podcast. This is a full spoiler podcast for These Violent Delights. Yeah. And I'm so excited for her new book. It's a duology, so it's Our Violent Ends.
Yes. I am beyond excited.
So I didn't realize that was a Shakespeare quote.
You didn't? I
didn't realize it till I was looking up These Violent Delights on I just searched up to find quotes, and I was like, oh.
Yes, that's how the quote goes. These violent delights lead to violent ends or something like that.
Yeah. I did not know that.
Well,
yeah.
That just goes to show stuff.
I didn't pay much attention in high school.
These violent delights have violent ends. There you go.
Yeah.
I didn't do Romeo and Juliet in high school.
You didn't?
No. My high school was cool.
Okay, just go ahead and just I guess Grace chose violence today.
I did. Where's my dagger? I must have it on me. No. That's not to call out or shit on anybody else's high school that's listening. Just my school was very new thinking.
Yeah. I mean, we did it for freshman year and we acted it out. That's what we did. Yeah, it was really bad. That's why I remember nothing from it.
I wanted to do that. So I'm mad that my high school didn't do it. Okay, so quick story time before we really jump into things. I went into high school. Granted, I remember I was homeschooled for middle school. So nothing really happened to me in those years. And the only idea of high school that I had was High School Musical. So I went into high school thinking, I'm going to find the love of my life here. We're going to dance. We're going to go to games. It's going to be like a movie. That's what I went to high school thinking. I get to high school, my first day, as soon as I get into class, whatever class it is, you go through your whole schedule the first day. When I went into each class, I quickly scanned the room to look for the love of my life. And I was so disappointed when I didn't find it. I know.
I'm sorry. Did you really think somebody you were going to be in high school was going to be the love of your life?
I really did. I was just like, who's going to meet my eye? No. Okay. Oh, okay. Nobody. All right. So every class was like that. I get to my history class, right? And I do the whole thing. I'm like, nobody's here. And the first day of school, you're doing those icebreakers or whatever. This dude's next to me and he's hunched over writing his responses to our little get to know me thing. And like I'm just sitting there already done, arms crossed, just like this, just like okay, whatever, right? Completely standoffish. And like he like is writing and he like looks up at me. He has a beanie. I don't really remember what his face looks like right then. And he like looks up at me and he goes like, "Hey," and he gives me like a nod. And I'm just like, "Hi." And I just like left it at that. And he's like,
Grace!
"Okay." And he just went like, "Okay," and then like just went off to whatever. And that was my first day in high school. Flash forward, that guy ended up being my boyfriend in high school. Yeah. Yeah, that's the story of how we met and how we became boyfriend girlfriend.
So lesson of the story is don't date a guy you meet freshman year who wears a beanie because it just ends bad.
Okay, it didn't end badly. I mean, I still love him. He's such a sweetheart. He was the most polite guy, so funny. We were like the two, as Maggie says, I was popular in high school, apparently. Um, I played every sport, so I was
You were
captain.
popular.
I was in a sense. I was captain of every sport that I played. I played basketball, volleyball, and I swam. So I was captain of all three and really good. And he was like a guy, didn't play sports, but he was athletic and he was like the type of guy that all the guys wanted to be friends with.
Mm,
So we were that couple.
okay.
But we were low key and cool with everybody. So that's what was us. We broke up, things happened. That was what my story so far. But one more thing, last thing. On the second day, we were in art class. On the second day of high school, we were in art class, and our teacher's like assigning us to whatever. When I walk into the class, I see this girl. She's literally like the prettiest girl I've ever seen. Well, she's pretty. And she had like this really, really long hair. I'm talking about like down past her waist. Long hair. Really pretty, like naturally pretty. I'm like, gosh, I look at her, I'm so intimidated. I'm like, that's the mean girl. She's too pretty not to be the mean girl. Remember, I'm thinking high school's like High School Musical. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta keep away from her. My teacher ends up assigning us to a table, and then I hear her name being called, Janet. Oh, Janet, go sit at that table. And I'm like, fuck, it's my table. And she's coming over. She's still having a conversation with somebody who was standing over there. And she comes to sit right in front of me. And then she's just like, oh, yeah, yeah, we'll finish talking later at volleyball tryouts. And I was like, what? Pump the brakes. I'm sorry. You said volleyball tryouts? When? Where? Oh, today? Oh, and she's just like, oh, you play volleyball? And I'm just like, I mean, I play a little bit. And then she goes like, oh, then you should definitely come. And I was just like, okay, cool, yeah. And like instantly she became one of my first friends. And
So, Grace, this is a tendency that you have where have you ever heard of a story called Pride and Prejudice?
wait.
Grace, what have we learned from multiple situations where you judge people before you know them and then they end up turning to be really nice people, Grace?
No, look, I was homeschooled. I didn't know what middle I didn't know what middle school was
That's
like.
your excuse? I was
It really
homeschooled.
is. It really is. Because like after that, it's funny because like this is just a story about my high school. When we went to tryouts that day, my mom brings up my stuff, we sign the paperwork, and then like she sees me and we're being divided into groups for drills and stuff. And she sees me, she waves me over, she's like, hey, here you are. And I was just like, yeah, I'm so excited. Her and her sister, her younger sister, who was older than me, she was in 11th grade, her sister was in 10th, I was a ninth grader. They're like, oh, okay, we're so nervous, we played at this high school. And I was just like, oh, okay, I play like on a couple other teams. And they're like, okay, cool, we'll tell you what to do. I'm like, okay, okay, right.
Hmm.
Playing drills and it's time to serve, which is basically where like they're on the end line and toss up the ball and hit it in play. And so everybody is hitting underhand, just socking it over. And I go back there to serve. It's my turn. And I see the coach walking around, making notes. And I ask him, do I have to hit it like that? Under? And he's just like, no, just get it over any way that you can. I'm like, okay. So I back up and I do a jump float serve, which is how I serve because I played club volleyball since I was 8. So I've been playing competitively.
So you're showing them how to be a bad bitch is what you're saying.
Basically. So then I go and play as I serve. This is such a movie moment. I serve the first ball. I'm really showing off here. I'm sorry. Let me just live my moment.
But hit the net is what you're
No. I serve it over and it lands right between two girls. Like to me, it felt like it was slow, but apparently to them, they weren't prepared for it. And like literally, you just hear the ball hit the ground and then silence. Everybody stops in the gym and they turn to look at me. And I was just like, okay.
So what you're telling me is you had a Wattpad high school experience.
I did. Because after her drill ended, the girl came up to me again. Janet came up to me again. She's just like, oh my gosh, you play so good. And I was just like, I mean, I said that I played before. And she's just like, oh, but where did you play before? How long have you been playing? And then I give her my lineup, which is basically
club after club after club.
I played in championships. I'm a national champion. At 12 years old, I was a national champion. And don't look at me like that. And things happened and I've been playing for this long, blah, 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 blah. And they're just like, oh my gosh. So yeah, that was my experience. And had it not been for one girl who wanted to prove a point, she ended up being captain. I was just like, it's fine. Like, I don't care about that. Clearly, I know more than you, but I'm gonna let you have your road, graduate, and then let me take over. But yeah, I was most valuable player for all 4 years of high school and all league senior year. And that's all I'm gonna say right now because I feel like I'm bragging, which I am.
You have every right to brag because let's all face the fact Grace was a bad bitch volleyball player in high school.
I really was.
See, we can definitely tell who had the better high school experience because I did not get attached in high school. My first high school I went to, I knew I was moving, so I was like, I'm not gonna play any sports. I'm not gonna try to get attached. Like I can't because I would leave. I was literally like, I'm gonna leave in a year and a half. Why am I gonna like attach myself to a team and then like cry myself to sleep every night after I leave them? Like I'm not gonna do that to myself. I respect myself too much for that. But let's segue now from high school into Romeo and Juliet with These Violent Delights. Kind of just to give a recap, I'm going to reread the synopsis real quick off my iPad, just to kind of refresh everybody's memory.
Mine. Yeah.
The okay, I gotta get in my acting voice. The year is 1912, and Shanghai hums to the tune of debauchery. A blood feud between the two gangs runs the streets red. Living in the city helpless in the grip of chaos, at the heart of it all is an 18-year-old Juliet Kai.
Sigh.
It's Sigh. I knew it because I read the book. Okay. A former flapper who has returned to assume her role as the proud heir of the Scarlet Gang, a network of criminals far above the law. Their only rivals in power are the White Flowers, who have fought the Scarlets for generations. And behind every move is their heir, Roma Montagov, Juliet's first love and first betrayal. But when gangsters on both sides so shines of instability culminating in clawing out their own throats, the people start to whisper of a contagion. This is me just relearning words. I learned contagion, a madness, a madness of a monster in the shadows. As the deaths stack up, Juliet and Roma, I'm really bad at this, must set their guns and what?
Want me to take over? I feel like you're getting nervous as you're reading out loud.
I really am getting really nervous. I'm focusing too much on my voice. Okay. As the deaths stack up, Juliet and Roma must set their guns and grudges aside and work together. For if they can't stop this mayhem, then there will be no city left for either to rule. Perfect for fans of The Last Magician and okay, never mind. This is a heart-stopping
In this
debut.
spectacular reimagining of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, debut author Chloe Gong brings you on a heart-stopping journey of violence, passion, and star-crossed fates.
It's different in Goodreads.
Yeah, it changes a little bit on Goodreads and Amazon.
Yeah, I guess because they probably retype it and stuff, which I don't know why they wouldn't just copy and paste it.
I don't know. But majority of it was right. You did well, Maggie. Round of applause.
I get so nervous. I have performance anxiety.
But it's just me, technically.
Technically, I know, but like I'm thinking, like I gotta get my good acting voice on. I like read texts from Carly's boyfriend out loud, and like I will like talk and like he puts like all caps. I'll be like then also, and then I go like back to my voice. Then also, however, dot dot dot. But I'm gonna read my review first, and then Grace, if you want to read yours after. So I gave the book as a total 4.4 stars out of 5 stars, and said, so I hated myself because I read the first half like a word hungry goblin wanting to read as fast as I could. However, my halfway point meeting for my book club, I got into a reading slump. I was so mad because I wanted to read the end. I wanted to read and know what happened at the end, yet I couldn't. Then it's like the gods heard my pleas and the audiobook dropped. The audiobook made the second half even more enjoyable. The first half of the book is a very fast pace. The second half is more slowed down, but there is more emotions at play between the two main characters, especially that ending. Girl, how could you really do that to me? I recommend anyone who hates the common Romeo and Juliet trope to try this out. It definitely is a modern take set back 100 years ago. The main characters are both equally mysterious and big personalities. The constant tension between the two of them causes you to eat the story up as fast as you could. Can't wait for the next book.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
You said 4.5.
I said 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
What'd you say?
Me, Grace, obviously me. I gave it a 5 out of 5.
Oh.
Well, I didn't hit a reading slump, so that's probably why.
That yeah, I think it's the reading slump that really caused me to give it a 4 out of 5. Because like I couldn't rate it a 5 out of 5 because I didn't really get the full experience of like eating it all up in one. Like a 5 out of 5 would be something that like I read in a day. Honestly, that's for me is like a 5 out of 5 is something I read in a day. Okay, I want to hear your review for it.
Okay. My review was very short, so I'm gonna more speak it after. This is what I wrote on my Goodreads. I'm going to go back and fix it. I promise. I will. Oh my goodness. This is everything. That ending, the angst, not a typical Romeo and Juliet retelling. 1920s, the mystery, the drama, the betrayals. I love it all. That was end review. That was it.
But like that's a good short review that doesn't spoil anything, and that's the kind of review I like. Like my reviews, I do it for other people, not for myself. But I like reading the short reviews where they give me, is it enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, what basic plot, what happens. I don't really want to know what a lot that like angst, enemies to lovers, betrayal. That's all I need, and I got it.
Well, actually, when I was writing this review, I was thinking of you. I was just like, what would Maggie want? And so that's what I wrote.
Yeah.
But verbal review. This is my verbal review. Man, do I really like the storyline here. Chloe Gone, honestly, she made this retelling her own in every way possible, aside from a few major points. In Romeo and Juliet, we have Juliet and his cousin and his friend, and then we have the trio on the Capulet side, which is Juliet's side, with her and her cousin and Rosalind, obviously. And so we have the three of them versus the three of them, and each of them had their mirrored roles in the actual play. So we do have Mercutio, who is Marshall, and we have Benedict, who is forgetting his name, but Romeo's cousin. And then we have Rosalind and Kathleen, which Rosalind is obviously mirrored as Rosalind. But besides that, what happens between those trios is very different from what happens in the actual play.
Yeah, that's why I put in my review, like, if you hate like the common Romeo to Juliet, like try this out because it's Romeo and Juliet, but it doesn't like it doesn't end how, at least the first book doesn't end how the play ends. So it's a two-part book, yes. So technically they could die at the end of the last book, but I'm sorry, if Chloe Gong makes them die, I will be mad. I will be livid if either one of them dies.
Somebody
Like,
has to die.
well, like we saw. Okay, I would be okay with Roma dying.
Well, somebody does die.
I know because people have said it's really hard, like it breaks their heart.
I know.
But I think Juliet will be the
We'll,
one to live.
we'll give her
Okay, we'll give
thoughts.
theories at the end.
I'm forgetting that this is a spoiler-filled podcast because like I'm like, oh well, this happened.
Yeah,
Basically,
yeah,
Mercutio dies in the play,
yeah,
right? Marshall, spoiler again. Um,
we don't
he
need to spoil. We already put a spoiler warning.
but still. Marshall does not die, but his death is faked
Yeah.
at the end of that's how the book ends with his death being faked. Um, but let's start at the beginning and work our way.
Yes. So I'm gonna talk about this very first chapter. I think it's the prologue kind of thing. It's the one, yeah, it's the prologue. And in Glittering Shanghai, a monster awakens. The prologue hooks you in. It is like it. I don't know why, but it just like it grabs you, and it's a different style of writing that really pulls you in. Like it's not constant throughout the whole piece. Like there's not just chapters of that kind of writing. It's the only chapter, but it pulls you in. And you're like, well, what is happening? Like I want to know.
Mhm.
I really appreciated it.
It was very interesting to me, like to start off the book with a prologue that has nothing to do with the main characters that we're following. It's like this moment that happens that sets in motion everything else that's about to happen.
Mhm.
And um basically what happened, like you're gonna get a play-by-play of the book basically. So what happens is like this monster crawls out of the water and you don't really know what it looks like. It's just black, it's this shadowy thing, and these guys are walking on the deck of Shanghai, and we have the white flowers there and then a couple of scarlets there, and the white flowers step up to the scarlets like trying to start something. A police officer comes trying to break them up, but then this thing just comes over and pours over them like rain, but it's not rain that's falling on them, it's just these big things swallowing them. And one of them is able to get away, but the other ones are screaming and tearing at their throats and digging inside of themselves as if something was in them and they're trying to let it out. And this one guy is able to escape and get away.
Yeah. And it's just the visualization of it. It like because it's like an omniscient point of view is what I would say it is. It's a very omniscient point of view, and you're hooked in because you're like, one, what is this monster? Two, what is happening to these people who are literally like they're suffering so much that they are literally killing themselves because they want it to end. And I find that like, oh, and then when it flips over to the first chapter and Was it in the first chapter that Roma goes to the club? It's
Um,
basically the first part. The first major things that really happen is that Roma goes into the Scarlet Gang's club, right?
it is him. So we start off the chapter in September 1926 with Juliet.
Mm-hmm.
This book is in third person point of view. Um, and so we're following Juliet in this burlesque club with her cousin Rosalind dancing on stage and Kathleen coming by as a server. And she's just kind of giving the lay of the land of her being back in Shanghai after being in America for years, for about 4 or 5 years.
She was in 4 years. She was in America. She was in New York, right? Or Boston.
She was in New York,
She was in New York.
in America. And so she's coming back, and this is like the height of the 1920s over there in America. Flapper dresses are big, prohibition, that whole vibe
It's the Roaring 20s in America.
going. But in Shanghai, a lot of them still wear their I'm forgetting the word.
I know what you're talking about.
It's their
I forgot what it's called because Kathleen wears them all the time.
Kathleen and Rosalind.
Okay, I'm gonna interject while Grace is talking. One of the things that I like very much in this book is the character Kathleen. Kathleen, y'all already know it's a spoiler. We all know that Kathleen was actually Celine, and Kathleen was born a male, but is identifies as female. She's a female, and she kind of struggles. We see the struggle with her family where her father literally couldn't accept her until her sister Kathleen died, and Celine had to take Kathleen's identity. Like that's the only way her parents could accept her, and I think it's it's a very interesting take on the concept of like a parent being unable to comprehend that their child is transgender, and it's played very well set in this scene of like in the 1920s. They're away, I think, in France when this happens, when Kathleen dies and Celine takes her identity. And I yeah, I love Kathleen as character. She is feisty. She's a spy. Everybody talks about it. She's the one who has spies in the Communist Party. She's a bad bitch, and I love her.
She I would say she's a trans woman.
Yeah, she's a
And
trans woman.
yeah, she's very subtle and laid back, and but she and she's described as a pacifist, though she is not unwilling to jump in and do what needs to get done for the safety of her family.
Yeah.
She's one of those like, I don't need to go out and inflict violence, but if violence comes, I'm ready to do what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And for Rosalind, we'll get to what happens with Rosalind later. And it's called Quipao. Quipao.
Think so.
It's something like that.
It's like the traditional like um dresses that they wore.
Quipao? Quipao? I think it's Quipao. Um it's QIPA.
QIA. I'm looking it up right now.
QIPA.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a I don't know how to say it. Let me just put it into Google Translate real quick. Um but yeah, I love continue what you're saying and I can find out how to
So
Okay,
basically,
here it is. It's Keepow.
Keepow.
I was right.
Keepow.
So point is, during this burlesque club, and we're going on, and Juliet is not Chinese, a Shanghainese. in a sense of her style. She's very 1920s. She's more American.
Americanized.
And so she wears a flapper dress. That like flat style with the like sparkly like things, and that's her style. And people know her, recognize her because of how she dresses. Americanized Juliet. And she also feels like the stigmatism towards that because in America she's not American enough, and in Shanghai she's not Chinese enough. So she does have that both, and she's just like, I'm just gonna embrace it and be flapper Juliet. And so she's in the club and things are going, and they're like, okay, so how are you gonna be? How do you feel coming back? And this kind of, she keeps mentioning how America was and how people in the gang are filled with, in the club you see all these Scarlets around, Scarlet businessmen, and she's meeting a man there for her father, Walker, Mr. Walker, Paul, Mr. Walker, I forgot what his first name is. And they're going to do a deal because Mr. Walker is interested in selling product, which is an opium drug that he has come up with, and he wants to sell it. So he's asking the Scarlet Gang to push it. But she and the Scarlet Gang are not interested in this, so she denies him this. All of a sudden, in comes in Roma.
Roma Montagov.
I let me just say,
Roma Montagov.
the way that this man walked in, I was like, ugh.
I was like, oh. Здравствуйте, Рома. Меня зовут Маргарет Карпенко. Как дела? Спасибо, хорошо.
Go up and introduce yourself. I can totally picture it too. And let's say something real quick. The fact that this book has both Shanghainese and Russian, and
Shanghainese, Russian, what else? So many different languages that Juliet can speak. French, I'm pretty sure she can speak French as well. I'm amazed. Like I think we need that more in characters.
And English.
Yeah. Like we need that more in characters where they are multilingual. And Roma himself is multilingual. He doesn't just speak Russian and English. He speaks also Shanghainese too. 4 languages. 4 or 7?
5.
5?
Because regular Chinese, like well the Chinese, not Shanghainese, but like a more general
yeah. Doesn't have a dialect.
Yeah. And then French, Russian, English, that other thing, and another one that I'm forgetting. It was 2 other small village type of Chinese. I don't say Mandarin because Mandarin is another form of Chinese.
Yeah. I think they do speak Mandarin though, don't they?
Maybe. I don't know.
We don't know. But that's kind of like the first time we see them together is at this club when she comes back. And I think Roma is also taken aback that she's there as well. He does not know she's come back.
Yeah, like she is just like, hi, and then like he like turns around and he's just like, Juliet, and then he catches himself because he's just like, I can't talk to her like that. We're not close. I need to address her as Miss Sai. And right there you're hit with like the first thing, like they know each other. They have had something. They
have history.
Yeah. And you're hit with that.
Their history though.
It's just,
Chloe, why'd you have to do that to me? Why did you have to do that to me? Where I was like, oh.
The way that it's unfolding, because it's not like in one chapter you get a full scene. It's that it's sprinkled throughout that you have to read it to catch up on it. So, continuing the scene.
Are we gonna go scene by scene? Because I don't think we have time for that.
I just want to get through like their meeting together because it was very significant.
Yeah.
And so Roma comes up to her and tells her like, oh, like have you heard of this incident that happened on the docks, which is the incident that happened in the prologue, which was what set everything in motion.
Yeah.
And we're talking about like how they don't want to help each other, they don't want to work together, they don't want to help each other give information. Um, and he's standoffish because she's seems different to him.
Mm-hmm.
But then she is angry. You feel that anger from her already.
Yeah.
Not knowing what's going on, but you know something happened there. And then all of a sudden they start screaming, and then you see the first victim that they see together.
The guy that ran off at the fight at the end of the prologue, the guy who ran away, got away, comes in, barges into the club and basically dies, kills
Yep.
himself in front of everybody.
His neck. And just to say, the visuals of the victims clawing at their neck, blood squirting everywhere, bone and tendons, and like that's why I gave this book a 16 plus rating.
Mm-hmm.
Because the visuals of it's very descriptive and visually like jarring.
Mm-hmm.
These scenes of like the people ripping at their neck to the point where when I was reading this, I felt like I was scratching my neck. Like I'm like, I just felt it of how seeing how like Chloe was like describing this, like it was so right there in my face. And because of that, I had to like up at the age a little bit.
Yeah.
But what do you like?
It was, I will say, it was a very graphic book. When it came to describing gore and stuff, it was pretty graphic. I mean, it didn't have any pictures like Stalking Jack the Ripper, but it was still pretty graphic in the sense that you're like, oh, ugh, I don't want to. You're like skimming over. You're like, I don't want to read this. But I also think that like it was done beautifully. Like the how she portrayed, like how graphic and how like how it made you want to scratch your own skin. And that's how you know she's a good writer, is because you're like, oh, I need to like I'm even right now thinking about it, trying to itch.
I'm literally thinking about how I'm trying to like I feel like my skin is itchy because
Yeah.
of remembering of it. But yeah, so that was the first victim, and then they go their separate ways, and then we see like Roma's family and we see their dynamic. But that was like their first encounter again.
Yeah. I honestly like the encounter in the at the party. Um in I forgot which it was in the first half. It was the party that they went to. It was the masquerade. Or no, that was the second half.
Yeah, I'm like, girl, you jumped up way too much from here.
But I'm talking about their interactions. Some of my favorite interactions was the balcony scene where do you remember when he got up on our balcony?
Okay, the balcony scene, yes, it's okay.
It's cute. And it does kind of hit at like the Romeo and Juliet scene where it like the Leonardo DiCaprio one where he like throws rocks at her window and like she opens it and stuff. That it's very that. And I appreciated she does do a little bit of like jabs and like talks about like Romeo and Juliet and stuff from Shakespeare, and she puts those little Easter eggs in, and I really appreciated that. But the masquerade ball and the in the was it the writing place, the newspaper, when
Yeah,
with the hat scene and the hat where he left his hat, and she was just like, ugh. And I was just like,
the scene where she pulls a knife on him. God, yes. And he pulls out a gun on her.
that was good.
Man, that was like the smoothest, like PG-13 talk here. I swear that was like the sexiest move I've ever seen of a man not in high fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do.
Well, it's a very urban. Well, I don't know. Would you consider it it's a fantasy book because it does have some. Does it though really have
Well,
any?
the historical
It's a
fantasy.
historical fantasy, yeah. Because we don't know if it's. Does it really have any magic in it? Don't think so.
No, but it's still fantasy.
Yeah.
But it was really sexy to me because like they take each other down and she's on top of him, and then she's threatening him with a gun.
And she thinks she's all that.
Yeah, she thinks that his gun is like gone already because he already had one, right? And then he just pulls it out of his boot or his like holster by his ankle, and then like clocks it at her. And then he just says like, did you really think that was the only one, or something like that?
Yeah, he said, "Did you really think I only brought one?" And I was like,
Yes. And I was like, sir, how old is Rama right now? Let me
I
see
think he's
how.
19.
Thank goodness, because man, that man child.
It's a very it's not even the fact that it's the scene of it in itself. It's like the idea, the concept of the scene where like the knife, it's the classic knife at your throat enemies to lovers scene that every enemies to lovers has, and it is the best.
It was literally perfect because like it was like, yeah, we talk about like the knife against the neck trope, right? We talk about it all the time. Technically the only ones that I have read so far that have actually done it correctly is Cruel Prince, From Blood and Ash, The Wrath and the Dawn.
From Blood and Ash really does it. She spoiler alert for From Blood and Ash and A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. She literally Poppy stabs him in the chest.
She does.
So
Yeah, but it's that like whole threatening against like the neck and like that tension is hardly ever done. It's more like they threaten them and then they disarm them, and then it's the tension of holding them in place, but the knife and
yeah.
the whatever is gone. Whereas this one, they literally had the knife and the gun to each other, holding it. The weapons were not discarded. So that's why I think that this one was like one of my top knife against the throat moments. What would you give this?
Scene?
That mentioned the tension. How many firecrackers would you give it out of 5?
Sorry, there's just a weird scratching noise in my room. I would how many 5 it's 5 firecrackers out of 5 is like the top tier.
Top tier tension. How much tension
6
would
out
you?
of 5 firecrackers. It was good. It's a well-written scene where it's like you didn't expect it. That's the thing, is you didn't expect him to pull out a gun, cuz like Juliet, you're tricked to think that he only has one.
Yeah. And he did it so smoothly that I was like, Poppy, come on. Like,
Did you just
oh,
call him Poppy?
I really did. Don't judge me. If I really like a man, you'll hear me call him Papacito.
Oh my god.
I-
Papacito. I kind of wanted to share a couple quotes that I really liked
Cool.
from the book. So I did an Instagram post for it, and my caption was, "Memories are beastly little creatures after all. They rose with the faintest whiff of nourishment." Um, I just liked that quote a lot. Because I feel like it kind of has that memory where like you think you like a memory comes back to you and you're just like, it might be a bad one or a good one. You're like, oh, like it just the faintest bit of nourishment. Um, and it's like you always are constantly reliving memories.
Mm.
And for I almost call him Romeo, Roma and Juliet, they have that shared history, and we even see it where they both like reminisce about the past, and it's so cute. Especially her talking about how he like met her and like rolling the dice and stuff. Or was it marbles? I think it was marbles. But I was like, that's so cute. That's so cute.
That chapter, their flashbacks of their childhood together. This is where like, they bumped into each other a couple times, and anger has been there. Um they came back. So Juliet came back to the Shanghai after some time. So she was over there for most of her life. Came back when she was around 15 or 10. No, 15. And no. She was around 13 when she came back. And she came back, and as soon as she got off the docks, he rolls a marble to her. She catches it, and then she like gives it back. And she doesn't know anything about him or
Then
know
he
who,
knows about her.
and he knows about her, and he befriends her, and then she finds out who he is. And
They
they
still are friends.
they become friends, and then they become lovers, and they fall in love together, and then the incident happens, and
The
that
old I honestly, I still okay, I get Roma's reasoning, like, I would do anything to save Juliet. Why not just run away?
where would they go? 14 and 13, 19,
Good
20.
question. That's yeah. I didn't think about that either. but like she Chloe could have written it somehow. I know it doesn't create the tension that we needed. I know. But
Where's the story if
I
we didn't
know they could have come back.
know?
They could have
I-
been found after they had like escaped. But like I understand, like, yes, you wanted to save her. Yes, you wanted to save her, so you gave up innocent lives to save her. That was just my one little ick where I was just like, ugh.
So look. I think the way that I think it went down was basically Roma scheduled this bombing, but I think he did it at a time where he didn't think the servants would be there
Mhm.
in the housing unit.
Yeah, that's true.
He thought that they were all going to be out doing
Well,
their tasks.
do
He
we
didn't
know
think they were going to be in there.
do we know how many people actually died in it?
A
Because I
few.
know her nurse did, but like a few people did.
Yeah, only a few. Most of them were injured, not they didn't
Yeah.
die. He was
So
the one death that really hit her.
I do get that. I know. He didn't
So
it's just a little icky where I'm just like, ooh.
for me, I am totally for Roma because I'm just like, yes, you did that. You understood because then you also have to understand at a different time.
Yeah, it is. It's at a different time and it's gang and this is what they grew up with. That's how they lived. I do understand that. And like especially with Juliet kind of betrays him when she gives away all like the safe houses and stuff. And Roma's mom is in one of those safe houses and they take her out. And like I understand that and like how it's like the you want to get back at somebody who's hurt you so bad so you don't even think. So you just do, and especially as a teenage girl, you're not going to think. That's what I think is like they don't think. Yes, they are a little bit more mature as like a 13, 14-year-old, but they don't truly understand the repercussions of their actions.
They don't understand consequences.
Yeah, especially, and that's one of the things that Rosalind talks about too that irked me with Rosalind is like she was talking about it with when she was like trying to get Kathleen to stop is she kind of like was like Juliet doesn't suffer any consequences. And I was like, yes, I get that. However, she has to deal with a ton of stuff. Like the weight that's on her shoulder and like Rosalind had that attitude of like it should be me on top, not her kind of thing at the end. And I was just like, that's not how this works, sweetheart.
Um, I did not like Rosalind at all. She always kind of gave me a bad vibe. Kathleen, however, I really did like her.
Yeah.
But honestly, Marshall was my really
Marshall's the Cassian. That's why you like him. Am I wrong?
a little bit because he's not the love I want. I want Roma. I want Roma. But Marshall is the type of bro that I would want to have around.
Yeah.
Cassian, I'd rail him. But
Cassian, comma, I'd rail him is gonna be our quote.
no. We are not.
Yes. Yes.
I'll give you another quote. This thing. Let me just think of another.
Uh,
But look, Marshall was my favorite because like their introduction scene between Marshall, Benedict, and Roma, their first like scene together, is they're on the dock and they're looking for clues as to what happened that first incident, and they're looking for clues, and you're getting this information, and the way that Chloe introduces a new dynamic of the character is so subtle and so flawlessly in flow with the storyline that you wouldn't miss it, but you wouldn't think it would happen that way. Like Marshall, he's either bi or he's gay.
I think he's bi.
I think he's bi too. But
Which
I'm
the rep in this book, great for the LGBTQ plus community.
literally, because we got a Kathleen who is a trans woman, and then we have Marshall who has had a scandal with a guy in the closet, and that's why he has like this tough exterior, because he's just like, no one's gonna make fun of me. I'm gonna be the one putting myself out there, putting myself like in the front of the crowd. I'm gonna own it, and I'll beat anybody up who tries to say differently. Benedict, on the other hand, is more quiet, more reserved, and we see that chemistry between the two of them where, but again, it's so subtle and so like in flow that
Yeah,
you're like,
you're
are
like,
they?
are especially with Kathleen, it was a very, it wasn't like, oh, she was a male and then she decided like she knew she was a female. No, it's a very gradual thing where Chloe mentions her Adam's apple that she covers with her pendant necklace. Um, she mentions like the story behind Kathleen was Celine beforehand, and then Celeste.
Mhm.
She was
Celeste.
Celeste?
Yeah.
It was Celeste?
Yes.
Why did I think it was Celine?
No, you like Celine's name a little too much. I'm gonna tell her that.
Well, I'm thinking Celine with a C. Oh, Grace froze. But
Mm-mm.
it's not. Okay, I'm gonna look for this real
Celeste.
quick. I need to look for this. What scene was that where they talked about it?
And it's about, well, actually, you can just go to that part where Kathleen is talking to Rosalind.
Yeah, what scene what part is that?
That's just before they go to uh right here.
What
I got it.
page?
It's page, oh wait, no, I went a little bit too far. We're looking for this because this is important.
We can do some book flipping ASMR while we're at it. I don't remember, but I don't know why. I keep thinking it was Celine was her name. I don't know why.
It-
I like how we're not even finding.
It's a little bit, okay, I got it, got it, got it, got it, got it. Oh, it's Celia.
Celia, we were both wrong. We were both so confident and both so wrong.
But I was closer. Celeste.
Celeste, Celia, Celine, Celia, Celine,
Celeste.
Celine, Celia, Celeste. It's like a
Whatever.
It's
Anyway, the way
Celia.
that Kathleen is like her story kind of goes in, you get like a brief flashback into her, but then you don't. It's like, again, it's not all up in your face, and that's kind of like how I would want rep to be done, where it's like it's just in flow. It's not like all up in your face. This is what the book is about, because the book isn't about Marshall, and it's not about Kathleen. It's about this rivalry between the two of them, and this this madness that's going on within the city, but you do get those key moments of them and their identity. Like their identity is not everything that they are.
Yeah.
They are well-rounded characters where they have a life, they have responsibility, they have people that they love, they have family, they have all of these things that they have to make them a full-rounded character. Whereas like where other books they try to throw in rap and it's just like, okay, that's all you're there for. You're not there for anything else. And that's the difference between tokenism and like actual representation. And that's why I feel like Chloe did an amazing job with the rep. Not only, like it being in Shanghai and like we get the different races and ethnicities, but also the sexuality.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big thing. And um it was just really important.
It was a really carefully crafted book, I think we could say. It was a beautifully crafted where you can tell she didn't really want to tell you outright things. You had to keep reading in order to find out what she wanted to tell you. She gave you bits and pieces so that you knew something was there, but you didn't fully know until she decided when to tell you. And it was perfect the way she did it.
Mhm. And it wasn't like rushed, it wasn't anything like that, it just kind of happened. And that's why Marshall is like such a great character, because like um you get that one line and then you don't get much else just yet. And I feel like his story and his relationship with Benedict is going to be further explored, because like you get hints that Benedict and him might be something, but then you're also like, is that something, or is it just like a friendship that is really closely bonded?
Yeah.
Marshall, he's Korean, he's not even Chinese. For
Yeah.
Chinese, he's not even from Shanghai originally. He was like found and then they picked him up and they basically adopted him into the
Yeah.
family. And um the fact that he's Korean, I really like that too. I like that that Marshall was not just, another,
White boy.
yeah, Russian white boy, And Roma is not even really that white, like Russian white, because when she's describing Roma, she's like saying that he could almost pass for Chinese had it not been like a couple of his features shifted.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at like the white flower art.
Benedict,
Uh yeah, Benedict is blonde, which I didn't think about that. Like,
yeah, because when Benedict is described, he's described almost like an exact copy, almost an exact copy of Roma, with a couple of differences. I didn't really pay attention too much when I was listening to that part,
mhm.
because so I can't really remember if he was described with blonde hair in the book. But that fan art is like literally amazing. We'll post it to our story,
Yeah.
so that way those of you guys listening or watching can definitely go back to our story to see what art we're talking about, though I'm sure most of you guys know what it is.
Yeah.
And Marshall was just like really awesome. I do think that Benedict and him have like something, but then also that scene with Marshall and Kathleen felt kind of like,
Tension?
it did, right?
Yeah.
Because I literally thought like, I thought he was, but maybe he's not, and maybe he's both. Maybe
Mhm.
he's bi. And so that's why my theory is like, is he just gay or is he bi? Because it was just like, I don't know, that scene with Kathleen felt very different,
Mhm.
because he doesn't know that she's trans woman.
No, I don't think so.
No one really knows. No
No
one
one
knows.
really knows. Everybody thinks that's Kathleen because Kathleen was an actual sister, so they just assume that it's Kathleen
And not Celia.
and not Celia.
Um, Juliet is the only one that knows, but
Yeah.
has been verbally confirmed to
Yeah.
her. Knows. And uh, so then that also kind of brings in the question, like, if something does happen between Marshall and Kathleen,
Are we gonna
will
see?
like how that dynamic is going to be shifted. Like what I want to see Marshall find out. Like, will Kathleen tell Marshall about it? How will he find out? If that is a possibility,
Yeah.
you know. I'm interested in seeing how that conversation is gonna happen. Because he just did like that. I'm telling you, that scene was just something because like, yeah, he was told to follow her, but he could have followed her at a distance and he didn't have to interact with her. He didn't have to save her from that and like pull her away and like protect her when the policeman came, you know. He didn't have to,
Yeah.
but he did.
Mhm.
And so it makes me think, like, does he find her attractive? Does he like interested in her? Does he know, maybe suspect of what she is?
So maybe let's get into the theories then. Do you think that something will happen between him and Kathleen, or him and Benedict, or both?
Okay, so I was talking with Kate earlier at Nautical Reads. Hi, Kate, if you're listening. Um, I was talking with her about this, and I was just like, "What if he? This is like the first time we ever see a throuple."
Yeah.
Because Benedict is more quiet and reserved,
Yeah.
or that would be like, oh, like you know, that would be a cool thing if it had been all three of them. But then at the same time, I'm like, they don't ever really work that well. And so then I thought about like, what if Marshall and Benedict did have something? I would be okay with that.
Hmm.
Marshall ended up with Benedict.
But Kathleen needs somebody.
But that too. So then I was just like, but I also want Marshall to end up with Kathleen because I would like her to end up with somebody who's genuine and who I like, with which I like Marshall. And Kathleen deserves somebody who understands her and who accepts her and wants to be with her. And that's why I'm hoping both at the same time. Like that's why in my head I think throuple, but like also I'm realistic. That's not really gonna happen without it being over sexualized, because that's bound to happen with like couples of three, you know. So I don't want that to be happen, but it does end up happening. And so do I want Benedict or do I want Marshall with Kathleen?
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. I so I think that because we know there's a spy
Mhm.
in the group. I'm just kind of starting a new theory. I think we literally talked about this in our group, our book club. I think Rosalind is the spy.
I second that. I for sure believe that Rosalind is the spy, and she gave Lord Cy the information. I'm totally taking over your theory. Sorry, but I think she gave Lord Cy all of this information to gain favor and become the new favorite possible heir. Because she wants
Well,
power.
but my thing is, it's not like the Montagovs where it's out of favor. You're the heir. It's you're the heir because you're born to be the heir for the Scarlet Gang.
Yeah, but Tyler is technically also an heir too. He's
That's
not
true.
mine, but he is in line.
So that kind of goes into what do you think will happen in the next book?
I Let's get this straight out of the way. The way that Marshall died,
It's gonna cause
quote,
problems.
quote unquote, died, and just that whole scene in the hospital room was really emotional and really like heavy, um, because we see that Roma's view of Juliet is completely distorted with her telling all of that stuff about Roma's mom, and then his mom ended up being murdered because of the information that Juliet spilled out of anger. Because it was her fault and she did that to spite him, he will hate her for this. And he will view her, I've said this a couple of times in our other groups, he will view her as somebody who has become the monster that they both feared that they would become, you know, in the face of their gangs and their family. And he will hate her and not trust her and not want anything to do with her for a while. Benedict is heartbroken because of Marshall thinking that he's dead. that cliffhanger leaves open that many other hosts, the host bug, like left the body and he ended up finding another host. But like he ended up finding another body, and more of the insects were released. That's what we heard the screaming. So my theory is that like as this city is like going off and they have to go find the person again, they have to find the manufacturer, they have to find all these bugs, blah blah blah. That I don't know what's going to happen with that. But my theory is as they're progressing to try and figure things out, Roma is so angry with Juliet that when Juliet comes forward to show, hey, Marshall's alive, Benedict will come and be like, oh my gosh, thank you, hug Marshall, and like be so grateful, like trust Juliet a little bit more because she did this for them. And Roma will be standoffish because he'll just be like, okay, yeah, you did that, but you're still a horrible person. I don't trust you.
You
You
lied
were
to me.
yeah. And so I don't think that he will accept her for a while. And she will definitely have to do a lot of making up to do.
Maybe they don't end up together in the end.
Maybe that's the Romeo and Juliet ending.
Maybe that's the play on the Romeo and Juliet, whereas because we know they don't end up together in the regular movie because they both die. They don't have a happy ending. So maybe the happy ending in here is they don't end up together. Because they're really toxic for each other.
Are they though? Are they? Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the facts. Are they toxic? To each other. To each other.
To each other, no, but I feel like I feel like now it's gonna be very toxic because now Juliet is gonna have to experience Roma's pain and Roma's hatred towards her. So it's gonna be a little bit like iffy.
I don't think Roma would allow himself to do anything to Juliet.
Well,
I'd rather not.
but toxic doesn't mean you have to do anything physically to them.
Right, but I just think he'll just be like, I want nothing to do with you, and that's fine to do.
Yeah, it's his right.
Right, and that's not being toxic. That's not being like mentally or physically, like emotionally abusive.
That's true. I'm not thinking of toxic like in an abusive way. I'm thinking toxic of like this isn't working kind of toxic.
Yeah, but that would go into show that they know that it doesn't work and they keep trying.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just tearing all of your things down right now.
Like we don't know what happens. It could happen where they realize that it's not going to work out for them, and they try, and it just doesn't work.
It could get to the point where it becomes toxic of them if they try.
But don't shoot down my theories.
No. I'm just saying that's how you're wording it is like you saying maybe in the next book they try to get together, but problems keep arising, which then makes it toxic. Right now, it's not toxic.
No, it's not toxic right now.
Right now, it's not toxic because that's what I was defending because I'm just like, no, this is like the one relationship where it's literally not toxic.
No,
They're
yeah.
really not trying to actively kill you. Like, yeah, they'll say it, but they won't. They're not.
No, Roma won't let himself actually hurt Juliet.
Ever. And though she like thinks that she might, she won't either. They're like the actual they're basically like the most healthiest relationship that I've read about in any of my books in the past 7 months.
Yeah.
They're the healthiest relationship, honestly. And that's saying a lot. But yeah. I think that would be really sad if they don't end up together.
I honestly would be okay if they didn't end up together.
I would not either. Sorry if you can hear that in the background.
I can't hear anything.
Well, you'll probably hear it on the recording. But anyways, I think that they'll be mad. He'll be mad at her for at least halfway up the book.
It's a Romeo and Juliet retelling. We know it's not a happy ending.
No. I refuse to believe this because, as we have stated before,
it's not a classic Romeo and Juliet retelling.
Elements of Romeo and Juliet and shifted them to do something else. So Lucretia was supposed to die, and yet Marshall lives.
Fine.
Right?
they might die. They might not end up together at the end. It be that they die or they just aren't together anymore. One of them dies. Something happens.
Run away. They fake their deaths and they run away.
Honestly, I would be okay with that.
I would too. Where would they run to? And like that was like,
America
no.
or Russia.
You remember that part where they talked about this? Because remember, they had confessed their loves, they kissed and everything, which
Oh yeah.
my heart throb. They had this like whole heart to heart and how like he's always loved her and like he. Let's just pause for a second. In a book,
Grace, we've gone over an hour. Just letting you know.
I know. I was looking at the time too. Okay, we're gonna end soon. I promise. Look, in a book, when it's like an enemies to lovers or like whatever happens, and then like there's a moment where they're having the heart to heart, and the male character or the one of the love interests, it's usually the guy, who ends up coming forward and saying like, "I've loved you all of this time. This is why I did everything, and you believe that I wouldn't love you, and you believe that." Of course I love you. Of course I would go to the ends of all this whole thing that he says, confessing all of his feelings and how he's been in pain because of it, what he's had to suffer to protect her, to help her, to save her, whatever. Those moments hit so hard because it comes from the guy. That's how I know it's fiction, because that'll never happen, genuinely. And I made this joke to myself a couple days ago. I was just like, if my fiance does not go into my books and look at those moments, those heartfelt moments of like declaration of loves, and take direct quotes from all of those scenes to make his wedding vows, I don't want it.
Your standards are way too high.
Oh, I don't think so. And I'm putting this out there right now. Honey, my fiance, you out there listening to this podcast because Maggie told you to come look at this podcast because the answer for your vows are right here. You're welcome. Do this. A couple of examples of where you can pick from Blood and Ash, These Violent Delights, The Wrath and the Dawn. What other book? A couple of others. Pick from there. But so that scene with with Roma and Juliet was like really, really heartfelt. And I forgot my whole point with that. What was I saying?
I have no idea. I kind of zoned out a little bit. I was so confused of where this was all going.
Because that moment happened, and then they were talking about running away. That's what it was. They were talking about running away, and then she gives like this whole rant about America. Like, you think that it's so great, and like that scene hits, that paragraph hit hard. That's why I don't think they're gonna run to America.
Honestly, they could go to France. They could go to Russia. They could go.
I say France.
France will be cute. France, because guess what's from in France? No, it's Italy.
In 1920s.
No, where is Romeo and Juliet set in? It's Italy. Oh. They could go to Italy.
And he could actually become a Montague. That part where he went into the Larkspurs, like, or what?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, and she's like, Montague is his last name, and you were like, and everybody was like, what?
Yes, because it was so funny, like those little Easter eggs. But yeah, overall, I have no idea what's gonna happen, and I
honestly have no idea. I could only guess, and all of my guesses are gonna be wrong.
We tried to guess, and we still didn't. We didn't know.
Yeah.
So this book was probably the best book that I've read this year so far.
Yeah. I think my reading slump, I probably will have to reread it in order to fully give it, like, love it, because I did hit that reading slump, so I felt like I wasn't really connecting with it. But it still was an amazing story, so I still did give it that 4 out of 5 stars. But kind of to wrap it up, I enjoyed it, even though I had a reading slump I literally took a week off from reading it, and I didn't read for a week, which is saying a lot for me.
What was I gonna say?
I don't remember.
Well, yeah, that was our. Do we have
Little
any?
review.
Do we have anything
Um,
on these Violent Delights? I don't know. The fan art for this has been immaculate. I will
yes.
say.
BX Romance. That commission was amazing.
I currently have my Owl Crate edition. It's a little dented, a little bit. I'm going to actually be selling this copy of it because it's a little dented. And for my YouTube viewers, you'll see what I'm talking about. The foiling right here, there's a couple of patches of foiling where outside of the dagger and rose design. But I'm going to be selling this edition because Owl Crate did send me a replacement for it. So I will probably make a listing of this, not this week, but maybe next week for it. And so if you guys are interested in buying an Owl Crate edition, you could just message me and I'll probably sell it to you directly. We'll see. But I have a question real quick. Ending on these Violent Delights. What are you reading right now, Maggie?
Oh. So Carly just snorted at that. So I am currently I am currently reading Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. That's the first book I'm reading. Amazing. I wanted to take a break because I needed a good romance book for Valentine's Day. And so the lovely ladies of Kennedy Fox put me on their like arc team. So I received an arc for Pushing You Away, and it's part of their convicts series. So it's ex-convicts falling in love, or convicts ex men getting out of jail and falling in love is all you need to know. And the first one is called Keeping You Away. Let me go back to like the first page so you can see this beautiful cover of a man. I read it in the ebook copies because I'm too ashamed to have them in my regular library. Plus, I can't pay $12 for these. But this is Keeping You Away. It's by Kennedy Fox. I'll have it linked down below. But that's the first book, and then I'm currently reading right now the second book of that like duet, which is Needing You Close.
Whoa. And is the first one out already?
So it's like a so they do like a 6-part series usually, or like where it's like 3 duets in the whole series. So they had like the Checkmate series where it was 3 duets, and so this one they have the first duet is done, and so I'm on the second book of the first duet, and then they gave me the first book of the second duet, which is Pushing You Away. And so I have the ARC edition. And did you hear her coughing? Oh, look, my roommate's coughing. It's scaring me.
Oh.
They sent me it because it's already released once this episode goes out. So you go check my Instagram or my TikTok to see my review of it, because I will be posting a review for Pushing You Away and the first duet of Keeping You Close. So
Right.
Needing You Close. Keeping You Away is what it's called.
Nice.
What are you reading, Grace?
I am reading this gorgeous book. You had me at Ola. Can we take a second to just appreciate that cover art, because it's just beautiful. I will post the artist's information who did this cover art because he's amazing. And it's by Alexis Daria, this book, and it is this. I'm sorry, hold on a second because somebody wants to come in. Come in, my love. It's my dog. It's my dog Lola. Okay, so You Had Me at Ola is basically about these 2 actors on a novella series in New York. One is from Los Angeles, and it's full of Latinx rep. It's about a novella that they're filming, and they both have their scandals going on behind the stage. She's recovering from a messy breakup all over tabloids, and he is very private in his life because of things that happened in his past early on in his career. As the story develops, as they film on set, romance is blooming on set. They have to become, that perfect on-screen tension and chemistry, and through that they become friends, and the story develops and the romance builds. I'm about halfway through right now, and I gotta say the Latinx rep in this is so accurate and so realistic, to the point that I feel like I'm reading about my cousin. And I'm watching Jane the Virgin. That's what it feels like. So if you watch Jane the Virgin and you like it, this is what that is in book form. Not the whole storyline, but just that feel, because you do get scenes of them filming or being on set or recording, things like that, and those themes.
Carly just leans up and she goes, I love Jane the Virgin. And then she lays back down.
This is what she needs to read. This is going to be the one book that she actually reads. Then I'm going to send it to her. Carly, I'm sending you this copy.
She said she came back out of the dead. She went back down.
To her for sure. Going to get this copy. She's going to enjoy it.
Did you annotate it?
No, I haven't. I wanted to, but I just haven't. Anyways, I actually got this copy from Celine. This is my gift for I got it from Celine at Moon Girl Reads. And it's absolutely amazing. I picked it up for my color themed February TBR, which is all my pink books, and this one is it. It's just so good. It feels like a soap opera. It feels funny. It feels relaxed and cheesy romantic, but not overly cheesy romantic, because the romance hasn't even bloomed fully yet.
It's a slow burn?
A little bit.
Because both of our books are slow burns.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. Because like, even though they both feel a physical attraction, like she cannot stop talking about how handsome this dude is. And I'm just like, I need to see him. And he cannot stop talking about how amazing she is. Not just how she looks, but just like her brightness, her just everything about. And they talk about smell literally within the first 2 minutes of meeting each other, both of them. And you know that that's a sign that they're already instantly attracted to each other. And their meet cute is just so, like, that would happen in the TV show.
Did you just reference a meet cute?
Yeah.
This is gonna make us cry. We just watched the last of the trio to All the Boys I Loved. We watched Always and Forever. We just watched that, and she talked about the meet cute, and that's the first time I've ever heard about that.
Really?
Yeah, I've never heard of the meet cute. But Carly just like got on. She like woke up from the dead, and she's like, ah! We cried today a little.
That's how you know we're from different generations, because I learned about meet cute from The Holiday with Cameron Diaz and Kate, what's her name from Titanic?
Kate Winslet. I'm not listening to Carly. We should probably wrap it up right here.
We should. Final thoughts. You guys should go read this book.
Yes.
If you're
peep that, I guess it's already been announced, but our next guest on the podcast is going to be Kate's books. I'm excited for that.
I'm excited to meet. Well, I know her already, but to have her on the show, the mother of book talk, have her, that's going to be amazing. So definitely keep an eye out for our story post, because you're definitely going to want to give her some questions that you guys have been wanting to ask her about anything, about book talk, about being a creator, about reading, her journey. Any questions that you might have for her, make sure to drop them into our Instagram story.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for listening to us rant about these violent delights. Anything to add, Grace?
Nope. I think that is all. Oh, and I hope that you guys all had a happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah. We're both single, so we'll both be. We're
We're
gonna watch Pride and Prejudice, is what we're doing. We're having a Pride and Prejudice watch party.
we were having a Valentine's Day night watch party.
Yeah, I'm
So
excited.
yeah.
But well, thank you guys so much for listening. Links to everything will be, as always, in the description. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can always find us on our social medias, which will all be linked down below. And stay tuned for next week when we talk to Kate. So we'll see ya. Bye.